As I told you in the last video, there are more words like much and many, which work the same way with countables and uncountables. Here they are, but I'll try to explain them all in the next chart without translations into Spanish. Before I start, I like to remember that Triads Method uses two colors to classify the vocabulary into uncountable nouns with yellow and countable nouns with purple. I won't use vocabulary in this video, but I just want to remind you why you'll see these two colors. I'm going to use water to help you understand better all these words, as well as boxes, because both words work the same way in Spanish and in English. Also, the glass of water and the container will be a great reference to understand even better the meaning of the following words. Here we go. We use any when we don't have water or any boxes. That's why we can use this word for countable and uncountable nouns. But if we've got one box, we can use a box, or we will use N for words starting with a vowel. We'll see some examples in the next video. However, we don't really have a word for water when we want to count one, so we'll need to use the container like the glass of water. If we have two boxes, of course, we can use the number 2, but we can also use a couple of or a pair of boxes. The only difference between these two is a couple could be used for two similar boxes and a pair for two identical boxes like in this video. When we have more boxes and we don't really want to count them, we can use few or a few. However, we use a different word to indicate the same quantity for uncountable words, like water. In this case, we have many options like little, a bit, or a little bit, but they all mean the same. If we don't really know the quantity of something, we can use some or any. However, we usually use any when we make questions, but that's not entirely true. We can also use some when we expect an affirmative answer. If we want to show we have more than the average, we can use many or several, which have similar meanings, but we use a different word for uncountables like water, much. Also very similar to the word much. From my point of view, we can use a lot or lots of water. And we can even use these words for countable or uncountable nouns. Well, and if we reach the limits, we use enough. Although if we have more than that, we can also use plenty. As you can see, we can use both words for countables and uncountables too. And if we have even more than enough or plenty, we'll use too many boxes or too much water. And that's about it. There are no more words. However, I'll post another video putting these words to use with some vocabulary and more examples. Remember, you can watch this video in Spanish as well. You can find the link in the description.